Welcome to the Bugs Night. I'm the moderator of tonight. My name is Frank Fu, a journalist from China. I'm also a board member of FCCT. First of all, before we start, I would like to introduce the programs this month in FCCT. Next Monday, that you see, October 21, there will be a documentary called Blue. So it's a FCCT and Australian Embassy to present Blue. It's a documentary that tells story about the changes about our ocean. And then comes to October 22, 6 to 8 p.m. It will be a forum about Mekong, the dams. And then October 25, it's an interesting evening. It will be an evening with Charles Dickens and Mark Twain. So the FCCT stage will turn into a theater. So it's a two-play, two-man's play. So welcome. It's a try of FCCT. Welcome to come and have a try. Then on October 28, it's another Monday. It's another documentary. The name is Tell Them Who You Are. Let's see. It's telling a story about a person called Mark Vesser and his relationship with the father, and it's a legendary Oscar-winning cinema photographer. So that's all for the introduction of about our programs in the coming weeks. Now let's start the Bugs Nights. Tonight we have two programs. First of all, we will have a panel discussion, and then after the panel discussion will be our very much expected Bugs buffet. So may I introduce our panelists tonight? Tonight we have, let's see, Queen Taratung from Smile Bowl, right? He's the assistant CEO. Smile Bowl has become one of the top brand in the local market to selling the Bugs snacks. And next, we have Mr. Massimo. And Mr. Massimo is a very strong advocate of bugs. If you go to his website, you can see he knows a lot about bugs. He's telling the stories about bugs, not only in Thailand, not only in his own country, but all over the world. And lastly, let me introduce you to Dr. Katinka. This is the lady, a very respected expert from UN Food and Agriculture Organization. And I had talked with her a moment ago. She has traveled almost more than 200 countries. 120, sorry. And has experience to handling this kind of animal disease in Africa, Europe, Asia, and now she's the expert in charge of Asia Pacific. So let's give a warm applause to all our panelists. So we will let our speakers to deliver a speech around 10 to 15 minutes, so one by one. Then after all, we will give the floor to the audience. So first, may we invite Queen Taratung to start? Yeah.
Let's start first.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Hi, my name is Tharathon from Smile Boom Marketing Company. You probably know our snacks, insect snacks, the Haiso brand that you can is available in the supermarket of the Thailand, like 7-Eleven, top supermarket, Lotus Express, and many shopping mall. You can find us. Yes, our company found in 5 years ago. Because of I show you our CEO. He's Mr. Thatnat. Yes, he's a insects man. I can say he is because his idea, his visionary of the idea to bring the insects to become a packaged food for the first time in Thailand, and probably I don't know, like maybe in the world, because because his idea is just something simple, because he have a staff, and the staff they like to eat fried bugs on the street, on the market, because like Isan people, like Northeast people in Thailand, they like to have the silkworm, fried silkworm, fried cricket, fried scorpion, whatever. They like to have that. But then the staff said to our boss that it's not easy to find the insects here to have. Yeah, so he got an idea from that comment. He got an idea that why he just bring it to become a packaged food and distribute to the modern trade channels. So that's why it's become our Haiso snack brand that you see on the table. I hope everyone try. Okay, I hope you try and you like it. Everyone need to try.
Try
okay,
first.
let's try and then let me know how you feel, about the insects. Yeah, like what is your impressions? Yeah, just want to know. So we've been in the market in about 5 years, and the markets become it's growing, but then it's still considered as a niche market, because just only some group of people they eat insects. In general, like many still scared, or they have the perception like it's scary. Maybe it's not clean. It's their perception. So that's why we just last year we just got our certification from the BSI for the ISO 22000 and the FCCT and GMP food codex. That's we are ready to send to export to the world. So right now we export to Germany the cricket powder. I show you the product. You might this is so scary, right? Okay, I show you our products. Okay, this is a cricket powder. The cricket powder you raise the cricket. We have a farm in Ratchaburi province 2 hours from Bangkok. So we have our own farm, and then we roast it and grind it to be a powder. So that is become one of the food ingredients that you can add to like protein bars, energy bars. So this is the new way of to add the protein, like the new option for consumer. So we export to the Germany. One of our customer, they are protein bars brands. They're like a young people that they want to do something new in the market. So they just brought it and then produce it and then launch to the market. So, and also our snacks in the package we export to Japan, Vietnam, and also France, and also Laos. So we are expanding on the export to the market. But as you might know, the EU novel food to enter the EU, it needs you know, some law and regulation to be passed. So now, right now, we are working on that, and we hopefully it's open for us to enter the EU market. So this is generally for our market. So we have the whole insects, the whole raw insects to cook a food or to do the snacks. Silkworm, yes, and our plan have to have like the pet food as well in the future. Food like you raise the cat and dogs, and also the livestock that to do a feed, to produce the insect to feed the animals. So this is one of our plans. Yes, okay. And let me show you something. Okay, just wanna show you the videos that the standard made for us. They interview our CEO, and I think this video include everything that you probably interested in. Okay, I will show you.
เรียนจบทางด้านวิศวะการไฟฟ้ามาครับตั้งใจอยู่แล้วว่าอยากมีธุรกิจส่วนตัวพอเราเรียนจบเราทำงานจนวันหนึ่งเรารู้สึกอิ่มไอเดียนี้ก็คือกำเนิดมาจากร้านอาหารเนี่ยแหละมีลูกน้องไปซื้อแมลงแล้วเราก็เห็นว่าเฮ้ยเราอยากทำอะไรที่มันแตกต่างวันนั้นรถเข็นแมลงผ่านมาแล้วน้องเขาไปซื้อแมลงแล้วมานั่งกินข้างๆน้องเขาก็ทานแล้วก็นั่งบ่นข้างๆบอกเนี่ยหนูชอบนะพี่หนูเจอนะหนูกินประจำเลยแต่เสียดายเนี่ยมันนานๆมาทีไอ้รถเข็นของเขาเนี่ยแล้วเธอจะกินเนี่ยต้องไปงานวัดจะเจอร้านขายเนี่ยหนูถึงซื้อเนี่ยเธอหาซื้อสะดวกนะหนูจะซื้อทุกวันเลยถ้าเป็นแมลงเนี่ยแล้วหยิบมาใส่ซองตอบโจทย์น้องคนนี้ทำการแปรรูปแล้วอยู่ให้ได้นานมีเชลฟ์ไลฟ์นานแล้วกระจายสินค้าได้ทั่วประเทศเนี่ยมันจะเป็นยังไงนะอย่างนั้นลุยต่อเลยจากความคิดสร้างสรรค์ที่ว่าแมลงจะไม่หยุดอยู่แค่แมลงทอดเพราะตอนนั้นคนกินแมลงเนี่ยเยอะอยู่แล้วแต่เขาไม่รู้เลยว่าแมลงมันมีโปรตีนมันมีประโยชน์มากกว่านั้นแต่วันที่รีบลงมือทำก็คือวันที่ FAO ของสหประชาชาติประกาศว่าแมลงจะเป็นทางเลือกอาหารในอนาคตเพราะว่าโปรตีนสูงพอมาเป็นแมลงเราก็เอาตั้งโจทย์แมลงก่อนมันต้องไม่เป็นแมลงแค่รถเข็นแล้วมันจะเป็นอะไรได้เราจะคิดสร้างเอาแมลงมาทำสิ่งใหม่ๆมันจะไม่หยุดแค่แมลงอบกรอบใส่ผงปรุงรสซึ่งพี่ก็นำเสนอนวัตกรรมแล้วก็จดสิทธิบัตรบ้างคือเรารู้มาว่าผงหรือโปรตีนของแมลงมันเยอะมากไอเดียก็คือเอาผงเนี้ยไปทำอะไรต่อยอดอะไรได้บ้างระดับสากลเขาคุยเรื่องอะไรกันเขากินอะไรกันก็เลยมาคิดว่าขนมปังอย่างนั้นถ้าเกิดเราทำขนมปังเนี่ยแต่ผงมันเป็นเอาใส่แมงสดิ้งผงโปรตีนนะครับเข้าไปด้วยเนี่ยเราก็ไปจดสิทธิบัตรก็ได้สิทธิบัตรมาครับแล้วก็มีพวกคุกกี้พาสต้ามักกะโรนีอันนี้เป็นไอเดียที่มีการเริ่มประยุกต์กันแล้วเป็นการทดลองไอเดียทดลองไปว่ามันทำได้ไหมมันคืออาหารในอนาคตอาหารของโลกประชากรจะเพิ่มเป็น 12,000 ล้านจะเห็นสินค้าทางด้านแมลงที่เป็นไอเดียออกมาจากนี้ต่อไปทั้งประเทศไทยแล้วก็ต่างชาตินะครับไม่อยากเลยที่จะให้ไทยเอาไอเดียต่างชาติหรือแมลงทั้งที่ตัวเองกินกันมานานแล้วเลยแล้วเขาทำแล้วซื้อไอเดียเขาแล้วก็มานี่แล้วเราอย่างที่บอกอยากเป็นส่วนหนึ่งที่จะนำเสนอไอเดียหรือความคิดสร้างสรรค์ทางด้านแมลงอย่างนี้ออกไป
Yes. Thank you. Okay, thank you so much. So this is our company, Smile Blue Marketing. and also the Smile Farm Food Tech is umbrella, the umbrella company. We have our own farm in Ashbury. So everyone who interested, any place want to come visit our farm, we are very welcome and hope to promote the consumption of the edible insects for the future, for the new generation. So thank you so much.
Okay, thanks for the kind introduction of Queen Taratung. Next, let us listen to the story of Mr. Massimo. He is the founding member of the Bugsalutely. Thank you.
That's the name, yes. I don't have a clicker, so I will tell you when to move a slider.
Okay.
Down there. Thank you, thanks everyone to be here. I've been spending a few years with edible insects because I find it very fascinating. Usually when I speak at food conferences or gathering like this, I ask how many people try the insects. Here I don't think it means anything because probably most of you try the whole insects. If you live in Bangkok, you can see them sometimes in the streets. But I can highlight how much strange it is that so many countries in the world have been eating insects for a long time in South America, Africa, Asia, except Europe and North America. And the other strange things with insects is that even in the countries where they have been eaten for a long time, there are not many recipes with it, and these days you don't see many packaged foods with insects. They are not processed as an ingredient in most of the cases. So insects are somehow a strange case. It's a food in many parts of the world. It's completely not considered a food in Europe and US. And I don't see why. It tastes good. You probably have heard that insects are very nutritious and very sustainable as a protein source. So I got told a lot, oh yeah, insects, it's the future, we need to eat them. And they say, oh, we don't need to eat them. We may want to eat them because if they taste good, that's a sufficient reason for that. So in some countries where insects are eaten traditionally, now seeing some products like the one presented by my colleague here, where whole insects are finally packaged and seasoned, it's already a very good step forward, making eating insects modern and new. For Western audiences, I believe we have to do something even more sophisticated and modern, which is using the cricket flour that you heard about and adding that to food products that are packaged and that you can find in supermarkets. Can you? It's here. Thank you. So these are some examples of products that have been developed from mostly startups in US and Europe. The tomato sauce is from Canada. Burgers is sold in Switzerland in Coop supermarkets. Cricket pasta is what I do here, but I produce the cricket pasta here, but I'm trying to sell it to European countries. Protein bars with cricket powder. There are many in Europe and in US. I'm not saying it's large numbers in terms of sales, it's still a small market, but I have here an example of energy bars, but there are at least 20 or 30 startups making energy bars with crickets. Crackers is a startup from Italy. Chips is a tortilla chips with cricket flour from California, which is doing pretty well. The cricket drink is from Denmark. It's a small startup. I'm not sure it's a good idea, but I'm happy to see one more product like this. I'm happy to show this example to let you understand that this is something that is still small, but it's definitely happening. Next slide, please. Although there are, of course, some obstacles, I would say that the distaste, what we call the yuck factor, the fact that some people never had insects in their life, so they got a little scary when they see one, it's not, in my opinion, the biggest problem. We all have food habits. Well, in Asia, there are some foods here that really scares me a lot when I see them. I'm not used to that. As well as I can imagine for Asian people, I'm Italian, ham or cheese at the beginning might have been very strange because it's raw pork, rotten cheese, things that definitely here they would consider disgusting 1 generation ago. So I would say one of the biggest problems is with the regulation. In Europe, the novel food law is very strict. So technically at the moment insects are still illegal because they haven't still been approved by the European Union. And Europe is, in my opinion, probably the most promising market outside Asia. Other countries like US, UK, Canada, New Zealand and Australia, they are totally fine. So those are probably in Western countries the place where it's easier to import, clear the custom and be on the shelves. The other limits that at the moment we have is probably there are some new products, but not so many. There are some burgers in Germany now. I've seen recently some products that are not in my slide. But of course, when you talk to retailers, they ask what this is about. Is it a special shelf we should think of? So I would welcome seeing more startups doing more packaged food for the Western audience. So as I said, you probably already know about sustainability and nutrition. If we talk about sustainability, sometimes journalists ask me this, and they say, in my opinion, if you ask scientists to design the perfect meat, they would probably come up with an insect. The insect need very, very little water. In the case of the silkworm, no water at all. And they convert the feed in an optimized way. So we know that beef at the moment is an ecological problem. Cattle is a kind of ecological disaster. And definitely insects, the crickets as well as other insects like mealworms and silkworm are very, very efficient. On top of that, no problem with diseases. So we know that now swine fever is affecting, I don't know, something like 1/3 of the swine population in China, and it's coming to Southeast Asia. And in terms of nutrition, I would say that many people in edible insects startups and conversations focus on the protein, so they target the fitness market. And it's true, insects they are packed with protein. It's when dry, it's 60-70% protein. But to me, this is more like a superfood because it's also a lot of minerals and vitamins. Thailand is called the Motherland of edible insect. Actually, some of the startups in Europe and in the US, when the founders are interviewed by journalists and asked how this idea came to your mind, they say, oh, I was on holiday in Thailand, I went to Khao San Road, and I said, oh, this tastes really good. So it seems like a joke, but it's true. I think a good percentage of the startups in the West got the idea by visiting Thailand. I'm not sure, maybe you can help me with that, why Thailand decided to farm crickets. Because one more thing that is strange is that insects have been eaten in so many countries, but not farmed. Usually they are collected from the wild. The exception, of course, are the silkworm, because of the silk. And for some reason in Thailand, maybe 40, 50 years ago, they decided to farm the crickets as food. Farming is very important because we cannot be sure that if they are not farmed, they are completely safe. So, of course, farming is a big part of convincing people that this is a new food that we can eat safely. I have to say that Thailand institution, in particular the Ministry of Agriculture, was not really aware completely of what was going on with 20,000 farmers farming crickets here. But in the last 3 or 4 years, they've been dedicating resources to this. They have a team working on it, developing standards, and looking for the farms in the countryside and training them to get a certification. So that even the government, I would say now, really support this as a new industry with potential. Oh, this is my product. It's probably doesn't have much potential in Asia. Not so many people eat pasta. Not so many people in Asia understand that eating insects is sustainable and nutritious. So definitely it's a product that targets the Western markets. I think for Europeans and Americans is much more easy to eat the nutritional properties of an insect through a processed food like this at the beginning. Then when they will get used to the idea, they can easily switch to all insects, which to me are good as well. Thank you, and I hope you will enjoy the bag food. I always do. Thanks.
So after listening to the strong advocations from the two gentlemen from the industries, let's try to listen to the respected expert from the UN. Are what they said true? So for example, Mr. Massino said that there will be no disease in these worms. And then I saw Dr. Katinka was smiling, but what's the signal is that? So,
I mean, sorry, I was not precise. There are some diseases that affects the crickets, but they cannot be transmitted to humans. But yeah, also crickets, they get sick sometimes.
Okay, let's listen to the UN expert, Dr. Katinka.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, and thank you very much for this opportunity. Well, you were saying pasta. Why not noodles?
Yes,
Yeah?
that's a very good idea.
So, well, just as an idea that popped up. But thank you very much I see there is a lot of interest in insects. And you said, well, we shouldn't ask if people have eaten insects. But still, I would like to ask who hasn't eaten insects before this evening? Because I've seen you snacking. Can you show a hand? Okay, there's very few. But actually, those that say they haven't eaten insects, it is proven that you have eaten them. Because apparently, each person eats about half a kg of insects unknowingly, that in much of the flour and in processed, there is some insect residues. So actually, you have already consumed them previously. But if we think, in the world, how many insects there are, and actually, just to give you a few figures, known insects that have been determined, there are about 900,000 different insect species. So it's huge. But still, they think that in total there might be like 2 to 30 million insects, many of them that are not yet known. So if you are a researcher, this is a really good area to research and to get nice publications. But if we see, you mentioned also the that many people are a bit resistant to insects. If we see nowadays, the calculations are that about 2 billion people still use insects to add to their normal nutrition. So this is especially in Asia, Africa, and Latin America, where still many people would eat insects mostly in the wild. So actually the farmed insects, that's another story. If we see in the animal kingdom how many animals eat insects and the important role insects have. So if you think almost all kind of groups of animals eat insects. If you think of the anteater, you know, a mammal. If you think of bats, you see here at night, not the big fruit bats, but the smaller one. These are the insectivorous bats, so they live on the insects. Birds naturally eat insects, and therefore chickens, and I will come later on chicken feed and the important possibility of insects for animal nutrition. But also if we think of fish, you know, a way of fighting dengue or malaria is by having fish in the ponds. So they would eat the larvae of the mosquitoes. So naturally, many animals eat fish, and not to think about the amphibians and the reptiles that also eat the geckos that we have in our houses. They would eat the insects. So naturally, there is this whole cycle of different animal species eating insects, and why humans as mammals wouldn't eat insects. In a way, it could be really part of our nutrition. So it's interesting to see why in certain areas it's more common to eat insects, why in others not. So from a cultural, anthropological. And if we see, for example, in Asia, I think it's very common. But if we go back in history, in Mexico, the Aztecs, they already were eating insects. And they, for example, a couple of years ago, I was in Mexico City, and one of the delicacies is ant eggs. And this is an old Aztec recipe. So these are a bit fiery ants, so they have already some little chili taste with them. So it's interesting to see how in different cultures, you know, we see that insects are quite normal to be consumed. So why is Europe and the US kind of have this kind of completely culturally, it's a bit more difficult for them to go over this first idea of eating insects. And therefore I can understand that with the marketing, it's much more difficult to find niche markets there. My first experience actually with insect farming, by training I'm a veterinarian, and we don't learn much about insects. But my first job was in a zoo, and we actually had a rearing area for insects to feed a lot of the animals that we were keeping in the zoo. And if we see on the one hand, there is a traditional animal farming, well, not farming, the traditional collecting animals from the wild. But if we see how human nutrition progresses and the need nowadays to be environmentally conscious, to find also nutritious food, here the farming of insects brings a huge new opportunity. And in the FAO, this is also a relatively new subject, and I think we should explore it much more. The first persons who started working on this came from the forest section, from forestry. So this is more the traditional, you know, collection of insects. And I think in our division, where we deal with food safety, agriculture, food systems, I think we should be looking much more into the potential of insect farming for human nutrition, but also for animal feeding. And this is an area you already slightly touched on this. But for example, this morning, I don't know who of you listened to the BBC. There was a very interesting program on cats and the discussion on where the different cat species and how cats developed. But there was also, cats nowadays are more common than dogs. I don't know who of you has a cat, or in your neighborhood, I'm sure you will gradually see how the community dogs are disappearing and more cats are coming. Well, actually cats, if we compare them to dogs, they need to eat meat. If you're a vegetarian, please don't make your cat go vegetarian because it will lose its teeth. So cats need to eat meat. And if we think as cats are increasing worldwide, they also need to be fed on kind of protein sources. And here, insects. I was thinking when I was kind of listening to this program and preparing myself mentally for this evening, that actually we need to think about the whole pet food industry that is huge nowadays, and you know, more and more commercial pet food is available. So here is also a market for insects. And maybe crickets are too expensive for that. And here I want to mention the black soldier fly. The black soldier fly is maybe not so appealing for human nutrition, but it has a huge potential for animal nutrition and is already being farmed and used, for example, in fish farming. So if we see a lot of the salmon farming nowadays is done in the form of aquaculture, and instead of feeding the fish meal, which would cost a lot of fish to be caught and processed, feeding them insects is a very, very good and viable alternative. Then I mentioned the pet food industry, but now at the moment there are discussions ongoing in the European Commission to legalize or to regulate the use of black soldier fly, and these are the larvae, for chicken and pig feed. And this would give a huge impetus to the industry, because suddenly you will have a big market opening up for pig and chicken feed. Why is there still a little bit of reluctance with the legislation? Well, partly it comes, I don't know, you all know BSE, the mad cow disease. When animal protein was being fed to animals, to ruminants, and then they started to develop this disease that also is a danger for humans. Well, fortunately, insects are so different from humans, and then, in a way, I agree with you that many of the diseases, well, that generally the diseases that insects have wouldn't go to humans. But one thing we need to be careful, because insects are such a good converters of feed, that you have to be careful what you feed them, and especially if it's destined for human consumption. You mentioned the quick conversion. If a cow needs 10 kgs of feed to produce 1 kg, a chicken needs about 4 kg for 1 kg of chicken meat. And well, the crickets, if I'm not mistaken, needs 3 kgs for 1 kg of cricket meat. And the black soldier fly would need 2 kgs of feed for 1 kg of protein, of mostly protein. So just to say here that, for example, the feed that you will be giving to the insects, you need to make sure that this is good quality and that it has no contaminants, because the animal will absorb most of it. They have such a good conversion that whatever you feed them, there is the risk that they will ingest it. So if you have heavy metals, pesticide residues, the insects would take that up. So that is what you have to be very careful about. I was discussing with a friend who is having a big factory of black soldier fly in Tunisia. And she was mentioning that they use the fruits and vegetables that are not used for human consumption. So they go to the markets and they collect all the fruits and vegetables that are well, normally would be discarded, and she said this is the best food you can give to your black soldier flies. They convert it very rapidly, and the turnover is actually within 1 month. You have each time a new batch of the larvae. So it's a very lucrative business. The inputs, you need some initial investment, but then once the markets opened up, there will be a great opportunity. And as you mentioned, still nowadays, the problem is the regulations. Because it's in the European Union, it's considered a novel food. So the regulations are not yet there. I would be interested maybe afterwards to hear from you how you managed to go German markets and individual country markets. But here I would make a pledge for the countries in the region that, for example, the Codex Alimentarius, which is a FAO, WHO joint organization that defines the rules and the standards for food items, that here, if countries would bring forward to the Codex Alimentarius the importance of regulating this, this will make a huge step forward when you have clear regulations, standards, what are the maximum residue levels of heavy metals or any other residues. This would help you to further develop the industry. Another interesting thing when I was kind of trying to understand more about insects is actually what you feed. If you feed them more higher protein food, their contents of protein will increase. And I understood if you feed them carrots, they will have more vitamin A. So, instead of discussing about golden rice, maybe this might be an opportunity, as we know that many children in developing countries are deficient of vitamin A. This might also be kind of a way of bringing that forward. So, just to finalize a few issues why insects are a very good alternative. I think we talked about their nutritional contents, also fatty acids. For example, they have omega-3, omega-6, and clearly there are differences between the different insects. We have now mainly been talking about crickets and black soldier flies, but there are grasshoppers, there are a whole list of many silkworms were already mentioned. And maybe this evening we will try out many different insects and can compare their taste. But there are lists already available of the nutritional qualities of the different insects. So we mentioned also the environmental friendly. If we know nowadays there's a lot of discussion that, for example, cows produce a lot of greenhouse gas emissions. Insects clearly, they don't produce. They produce some, but not in the same quantities, but much less. They need less water, less land. And I think, there are great alternatives. I think they cannot push away a nice steak, especially the carnivores among here would still go for a nice juicy steak. But I think definitely insects have the possibility to provide nutrition. And therefore, if there are social or cultural barriers still, I think having them like in powder, having them in cookie flour or something would be very viable alternatives. So with this, I would like to stop it here, and maybe if there are other questions, otherwise I could go on and on and on. Thank you.
I think the audience would like to listen to your talks for the whole night. You can go on and on. Okay. Thanks for the introduction of our three speakers. And now we open the floor to the audience. So, any questions? Yeah, please stand in front of the... Please identify yourself and also...
Okay, my name is Adam Dolner. I'm a member of this wonderful club. And for those who are not a member, I definitely strongly recommend you to be. Why? Because of the people that are here. You always get a warm welcome. So, and I'm not getting any commissions. So,
okay, thank you.
Okay, my question is for Dr.
Just call me Katinka.
Katinka.
Yeah.
While you were talking about the cats, you mentioned they needed meat, and then you said it would be good for their teeth. And in my head, it doesn't make sense because the insects are usually very soft and very easy to eat, while meat is a little bit stronger. So can you please clarify where I got lost?
Yeah, no, thank you. I didn't explain myself maybe correctly. I had a friend who wanted her cat to be vegetarian, and the cat lost its teeth. So that was the issue. You're right. We would feed possibly the insects in like pet food. So you would put these little croquettes or the little you know, how you call them, the cat nitbits. So yeah, this is something that the cats would normally chew on.
Okay.
So it wouldn't be the insect itself. I don't know. We could do a trial actually to see which would be the favorite insects and have them as treats.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions?
Hello. Hi.
Yeah.
My name is Joelle. I'm French and I work in food processing industry between Asia and Africa for the past pretty much decade. My question was regarding the feed that you were talking about for the insects. Specifically, knowing all of the problem related to climate change and to pollution of the air and the water, of the ground, everything. You were saying that insects are actually quite resistant to a lot of disease. Knowing the fact that today a lot of bees are disappearing, how can we ensure that the insects are going to be more resistant than human beings to the consequences of our action today?
Yeah, what I wanted to say is that the insects normally do not transmit infectious diseases to humans. They can have like fungi, you know, this is another thing. But normally the insects can get diseases. And therefore, when you produce insects commercially, and I think here my two co-speakers, I think they can give more information, you need to make sure that you have good hygiene, you have good temperature, you have good feed, you have all the what we normally call animal husbandry. I would call this insect husbandry or management systems, that you avoid that there are any introduction of diseases. So I think you're referring also to the bee diseases. Yes, it's a big problem, and this is happening in nature. But the moment you start farming, you will try to kind of prevent these diseases of occurring. And if such a disease comes in, normally you would kind of eliminate these animals because the turnover is so fast, and you would clean out and disinfect the premises and start repopulating with a new batch. Maybe you can provide some more information on that?
You're correct. Yeah, you're right.
Can you add some more? Yeah.
Yes, but in our experience to do the farming for the cricket, we haven't had any problem for the disease of the insects. So I think it's not like the disease like spread wide, and it's being a serious problem. We haven't have any problem with that, and I think we have a lab test to test for the biological test, and many like a disease or bacteria. We don't have any problem with that. The limitation still controllable. So it's a still good standard and something like that. So I think we don't have a lot of problem with that for the disease.
I heard there have been some problems with some viruses that can affect the crickets but not the humans, and so some farms in the US and in Australia, for example, the entire population has been wiped out. This to me comes to the fact that we have very little experience with farming insects. We've been farming chickens for decades, so now chicken meat costs less than vegetables, which is crazy to me. And we have little experience with the insects. So in general, it's a matter of using procedures that now have been introduced in Thailand by the Minister of Agriculture, but in a context, I agree with him, that is already pretty much safe. And if I can add something to the pet food thing, it's a good idea, and actually there are already at least, I know, 3 or 4 companies doing pet food with cricket, and one startup in Bangkok that is farming black soldier fly larvae for as pet food. So they don't have already, I think, the packaged product, but they are doing that. It's potentially it's a very good market. Feed market with insects, it's larger than the food market. The 3 larger startups, one is in South Africa and 2 in Europe, that farm insects as feed for animals. They got at the last round last year more than $100 million each from investors. While I have to say, startups in the food business with insects, if they are lucky, they get $500,000, $1 million from investors. It's not my case, I don't know about you, but it's definitely a smaller business. But to me, it's more fascinating because we feed, you farm 5 kilos of crickets, which is a perfect food, tasty and very nutritious, and you give to another animal, like a pig, to get in exchange only 1 kilo of meat, which nutritionally is not that good. So it's okay. On the business side, it's a larger business. But to me, I hope one day people will like to eat insects directly without, eating pigs that have been eaten insects.
Okay, thank you. Since the buffet is almost ready, let's get 2 more short questions, okay? Go ahead.
Just a quick one. So, my name is John Stevens from Protanica and Stone Lotus Ventures. We've heard from a few of the panelists that Thailand has a long history, and this is an industry that has great potential. I'm just wondering if there's been any support by the Thai government. Is this an industry that's being promoted? Are there incentives? Are there promotions? Is there media support to help companies, and maybe for the gentleman on the left, to support this early stage industry here in Thailand?
Khun Tharathum, I think you are in the right position.
Okay. I think from if you went to the Thai Fest this year on the late May to the beginning of June, you probably see the pavilion. I mean I'm not sure. I think probably one year, like last year, they have like the whole section of the alternative source of proteins, and one of the highlight is the insects. And the government, I mean the prime minister, Mr. Prayut, he just showcase the insects products and try to build awareness of that. So we have in that event, because Thai Fest is one of the the best, the biggest the food events in Asia, and I think the way that the government highlights us to be the market of the insects is became much more important nowadays. So I'm hopefully they are promoting and they find a way to educate people on the consuming of the edible insects. Yeah, but I think that they're working on that, and they have some support for us. But I think we need more and more to be more impacts to the market.
Yes, I want to add one more thing. In the recent China Botanic Expo, so the insect snacks is one of the major products Thai government is trying to endorse to the Chinese during the expo.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. By the Ministry of Agriculture. Yeah.
Oh, yes.
I saw that. Yeah, please go ahead. The last question, okay? Yeah.
Oh, okay. Dave from FCCT Guest and from US also. It seems like a very exciting time because at least in the US and Europe, they haven't really tested the market for this. And what I like about it is that we have a whole new ingredient that we haven't had before, and the conversion rates, as you said, are quite high. So there's a lot of good stuff about it. We do need a little bit of health and longevity things, and also a little bit of targeting and segmentation, because I don't think it's going to appeal, let's say, to vegetarians or vegans as much necessarily, but it goes anywhere into the area of maybe vitamins and high nutrition areas, and particular areas where you might say take carrots and target particular issues. Or I noticed in B12, for example, that that insects are quite high, and B12 consumption is notoriously bad, let's say, for some populations. So for me, if you could get some of that information available to the people who are making these decisions, it's not just the recipes, but the fact of longevity and nutrition and maybe gut biome, if you're familiar with those kinds of things for diversity, I think it would help sell this concept.
Do you have any questions then? Okay, thank you. Yeah, okay, the last question. Please be short.
Sorry, I just want to follow up on that. You touched on recipes. I'm based between Geneva and Bangkok, but live on the French side, so obviously recipes are crucial. And I'm just wondering whether do you have good recipes? My wife is an incredible cook, and she is not here tonight because she absolutely refused to come. So I'm just wondering whether there's any way that you can convince her and others like her that, in fact, with good recipes, there is actually an enormous potential for bugs.
Who would like to take this one?
Well, I think the lady there, she's from Myanmar and is working on a recipe book, correct? Maybe you can give a comment. Sorry to put you on the spot, but you can use the microphone.
Yeah, you can come over there. Yeah.
Sorry. My name is Ipyu from Myanmar. I'm working for the Spiritual. My previous project is researcher for the edible insect. Now I became the writer for the recipe book because in my country is a lot of people are scared of eating the insect, but we have a lot of product. Actually, cricket and bamboo ones, we have a lot of natural, no need to farming, natural a lot. But they're scary to eat, so they never try to eat. And the other hand is people are so much, mostly people are poor for the money, so they cannot get the meat every day. Okay. But I think everybody needs the meat, maybe just a little bit. I don't know much about it. So I think, okay, when I became the researcher for the edible insect, I see that a lot of people need to eating the meat, and they don't have money for buying the meat. So how can I help the people that are what I think? And then I sorted the insect, how much protein and how much omega. So I sorted, and then I think, okay, maybe I can help the people change the food, even though they are scary, the eating insect. So, like they can't see insect. We maybe how can I explain? I have some of the recipe. I already make it.
I think you need to share the recipes with his wife.
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
maybe you can share in private. Yeah, with
that's why I
with the
became
gentleman.
the writer for the recipe. Thank you
very
so much.
Thank you.
Okay. That's all for our short but very informative panel discussion. Lastly, let's all of us give a big applause to all of our panelists, and thanks for their sharing of their no matter experience or expertise in the bugs. Okay. Thank you. And now is the buffet time. Before we taste the buffet, let me introduce the chef Kung, who is the one to prepare the buffet for us tonight. And could you kindly introduce yourself and then show the video? Yeah.
The first one, I want to talk. Thank you for coming, everyone. My name is Chef Kong. Welcome to Insect Time, and tonight, enjoy with insect. Enjoy your dinner tonight.
Welcome to the future cuisine.แมลงจะเป็นแหล่งโปรตีนในอนาคตสำหรับมนุษย์โลก อันนี้ก็จะเป็นอาหารที่เขาเรียกว่าเป็นมิตรต่อสิ่งแวดล้อม คือเมื่อก่อนเนี่ยเชื่อไหมว่าใหม่ไม่ใช่คนกินแมลงนะแต่พอมาคุกคีมาเริ่มทำรู้สึกว่ามันเป็นอะไรที่แบบมันสัมผัสได้มันกินได้อะมันกินได้จริงมันต้องมีคนเริ่มทำถ้าไม่มีคนกล้าที่จะเริ่มทำนาทีหนึ่งมันก็ไม่มีเกิดขึ้นมาจริง
คนไทยกินแมลงประมาณ200ชนิดคนไทยยังคิดว่ากินแมลงแค่เป็นสแน็คเป็นของว่างไม่ใช่เป็นอาหารสิ่งที่เราขาดของคนไทยคือมาทำรายการที่เป็นอาหารไงฮะสิ่งที่เราต้องชาเลนจ์ต่อไปก็คือทัศนคติว่ามันน่าเกลียด disgusting ตรงนี้เนาะจะลบตรงนี้ได้ไงแต่ในอนาคตคนจะเปิดกว้างขึ้นสำหรับการกินแมลง
มีดกว่าเกือบ500ตัวเอาไปเลี้ยงครับผมเลี้ยงด้วยความเอ็นดูโอเคครับผมได้วัตถุดิบมาแล้วเดี๋ยวเราเอาไปทำเมนูกันเลย
Hi. Okay, thanks for the introduction from Chef Kong. But Chef Kong, I think you forgot one very important thing. Where's the location for your restaurant?
Changshui ครับ Its area is near Central ปิ่นเกล้าครับ This location, this one. You know Changshui Creative Park ครับ Yes, you can come to enjoy with insect more this ครับ
Actually, I care more about the next question. So how much discount we can enjoy to your restaurant for the ones who are present tonight?
Yes, welcome to everyone นะครับ If you like to try the insect ครับ Chef very happy ครับ Okay. Thank
Very
you.
diplomatic.
Okay ครับ